Welcome into today's show, Saints fans. I'm your host, Trace Girouard. I'm currently in Mexico right now with my family, but hey, I'm still giving you guys daily content, so that's why you subscribe. But today's show is going to be all about Bryan Bresee and Bleacher Report's thoughts on the first-round selection by the New Orleans Saints. So before we get into today's show, I want to gauge your opinions, Who Dat Nation. Will Bryan Bresee have a good season in 2023? Type G for good, type B for bad. Let me know in the comments section, and let's get into today's show. All right, what's happening, Saints fans? So just so you guys know, we had to film some of these videos last week because I'm out of town on a family vacation. Sorry, guys. I got to have time off, too, eventually. But we're still giving you guys content. Just full transparency, I'm self-producing this. I'm looking down. I'm going to be looking at my script. So just bear with me as we still give you guys some quality content. But Bleacher Report, I don't know if that's quality content on this article particularly, because they listed Bryan Bresee in their list of players that they predicted every NFL's team biggest bust in 2023. Funny enough, they've mentioned Marcus Davenport as the Vikings guy, which I was like, haha, facts. But they said Bryan Bresee was going to potentially be a bust. And as for what Bleacher Report said, I'm going to kind of sprinkle in what they had to say, sprinkle in some other quotes all throughout while I'm sharing my thoughts. So here's the first quote I wanted to share. In the long term, the potential of the former five-star recruit is undeniable. In the short term, there's reason to worry about his injury history and lack of technique. Here's what Bleacher Report scout Matt Holder wrote about Bresee in his scouting report. Matt Holder said he has missed nearly as many games as he's played. That's prevented him from showing he can pair his physical traits with clean technique and likely made it difficult to iron out kinks in his game. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that he didn't have the rest because he didn't. But let's be fair here, guys. It's not like Bryan Bresee was missing time in 2022 because of a football-related injury. No, he missed 4 games in 2022 due to a kidney infection and the death of his sister. It's not like he's over here being soft and not playing football. He's missing time due to serious things that he can't control, that are out of his, realm of things that he could possibly even try to control. I mean, come on. That is just such a weird take by Matt Holder, in my opinion. And I think that it's kind of unfair to sit here and say, well, he is unproven. He hasn't done this. He hasn't done that. It's like, well, I get where you're coming from, but let's stop acting like he missed time due to football-related injuries. No. He had to deal with some serious adversity and deal with some serious trauma, and he still was able to play football last year. He still was a first-round draft pick, and he's still putting in work now. I mean, this guy was the number 1 recruit and going into his high school class over Bryce Young, over Will Anderson. But this guy, he has all the tools in the world. He just missed time due to an ACL injury in 2021, as well as the 2 unfortunate events that happened last season. So I just want to take a quick second to welcome Bryan Bresee to the boot. We've done this before, but I want to do it again because we don't get to talk Bryan Bresee all that often. So help me welcome Bryan Bresee to the boot. Welcome him to New Orleans by typing his jersey number 90 in the comment section right now. And I'm going to continue to share some of my thoughts. So some thoughts from Trizzy. And if you don't know what this whole Trizzy Trace thing is, it's my Twitter name. It's kind of my personality that I've developed here at Chat Sports as a producer as well. So I go by Trizzy Trace on Twitter. If you guys seen me on the Bird app, you already know. So I want to go back to this point, though. Can we stop acting like Bryan Bresee missed substantial time in 2022 due to a football injury? It's exactly what I said before. He dealt with the death of his sister and a kidney infection. Those are 2 things that the game of football does not affect. Come on, cut me a break here. But the numbers when he plays, they're pretty solid. Even in 2021, 4 games played because of that ACL tear, 13 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 1.5 sacks, and 0 pass breakups. But most recently in 2022, in 10 games played, 15 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 pass breakups. And I get it. You might be looking at these numbers and thinking, well, Trace, they're good, but they're not that impressive for a guy who was the number 1 overall recruit in his class, who's a 5-star prospect. But the career stats, I think, do a little bit better of a job laying out what he was capable of in the limited amount of time we saw him. 51 tackles, 15 tackles for a loss, 9 sacks, and 4 pass breakups over the course of playing with Dabo Swinney and the Crimson Tigers. But at OTAs, guys, Bryan Bresee has been taking first-team reps with the Saints defense. He's been getting in work, and he's been doing a lot of things to improve his game, to develop, and to learn the game of NFL football because it's very different than the college level. It's playing in the NFL and playing in the ACC could not be more polar opposites. So when you have a guy like Bryan Bresee who has dealt with adversity, he still managed to put up good numbers, and he still managed to play through all of these things, I think that that's a guy, and that's a home run hit of a guy, and he's been putting in all the work. His character has shown, and I want to talk about that here in just a minute, but I want you guys to take a guess for me. Predict it. How many sacks for Bresee in 2023? I think that he could have a very good amount. I mean, in 2022, he had 3.5 sacks in just 10 games played. I think that he could have upwards of 4, 5, 6 sacks his rookie year. I think that'd be awesome if we saw that out of Bryan Bresee. Tell me I'm wrong. How many sacks do you think that Bresee will have in 2023? So, some other programming news, some fun things, and honestly, it adds to the story because we hired a couple new guys here at Chat Sports, and our new guy, Chipper, not even going to tell you his first name because he goes by Chipper, but our new guy, Chipper, he is a Clemson grad, just recently graduated, and I said, hey, Chip, I need you to do me a favor. I'm talking Bryan Bresee in my video today, so just give me some thoughts. Give me 2 quick sentences, just some thoughts on what he had on Bryan Bresee and his time at Clemson. And Chipper said he wasn't able to show what he was capable of at Clemson. He has all the tools in the world, and he can be coached up, and he had to deal with a ton of adversity. And I couldn't agree more. Chip, you know ball, my guy. And what I'll continue to say and what I'll add here is that the Saints defensive staff is elite. You are going to get the most out of a player like Bryan Bresee in New Orleans. I don't think that Bryan Bresee would succeed nearly as much had he gotten drafted to another team. I think that bringing him into New Orleans makes a ton of sense, not only for Bresee, but for the Saints. Because if you remember going into free agency, or going into the draft at least, you had a big need on the defensive line at edge or at the end and defensive tackle, to be honest. But you had Bryan Bresee, Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders, Malcolm Roach. Those are going to be your, main defensive tackles. You also got Emily Prince. You got Jack Heflin. You got some other players on the roster as well. But Isaiah Foskey, your second-round draft pick, he's going to, in my opinion, replace Carl Granderson later in the season. I still think Carl Granderson starts week 1. But then you have Cam Jordan, Tano Passanio, Peyton Turner, Zuninga, all of these guys who can play very well and at a high level. And I think that having Bryan Bresee in this defensive line group with this set of coaches is a very good fit for him. And I truly do believe that he's going to be a long-term cornerstone piece of the defense. I think that he could have, if he stays healthy, a career similar to a Cam Jordan. I think that he could be a guy that sticks around for the long term. I mean, I would personally love to see Isaiah Foskey and Bryan Bresee just be the 1-2 punch you have for the Saints defensive line, taking up the interior, taking away the edge. I think that having those two guys long-term would be amazing. And before we get on out of here, Bleacher Report had one more bogus quote to say. And they said, now, Bresee is going to be expected to stay healthy in the grind of the NFL season. While learning the finer points of playing defensive line on the fly, it's a lot to ask. And Bleacher Report, it's fair. It's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask for a guy who has had a lot of injury history and a lot of unfortunate circumstances to stay healthy and stay focused. But Bryan Bresee is that kind of guy. He has shown what his character is. He has shown that he is a player that is going to come in and put in the work. He has proven that he is a guy who's not afraid of hard work. He's not afraid of a challenge. He wants to take a challenge head on, deal with it right in front of him, and succeed in the process. And that's why I truly do believe in Bryan Bresee. And I was also a guy who, in the pre-draft process, was someone that was like, you know what? I wouldn't hate getting Bryan Bresee, but there's so many other players that I think you might have a little bit of a safer option. But the more I've read into him, the more that I've observed the fit that he's had with this team, looking at him and at the highlights that's been posted at OTAs and at minicamp, I think that Bresee is a perfect fit for New Orleans. I think he's a great culture guy, and he's somebody who's going to be a leader and a cornerstone piece for this team in the long term. So, Bleacher Report, In this circumstance, they don't know ball. I'm just going to say it. They don't know ball. And if you think Bleacher Report's take on Bryan Bresee is bogus, that he's going to be the biggest bust for the Saints in 2023, I want you to type FBR in the comment section for F Bleacher Report, because I think that Bryan Bresee is going to be a player that does a lot and has a lot of success for a very long time in New Orleans. If I'm wrong, oh well, it be like that. It happens. But if and when I'm right, I'm going to be sitting here laughing at Bleacher Report. But guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that your week is going well. I know my week's going great because I'm currently on a beach with a margarita in my hand, but I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. And as always, y'all stay golden. If there's any updates or any news that come out, the Chat Sports team will take care of it for you. So be sure to subscribe and turn on your noties. And I said it before, but I'll say it again. As always, y'all stay golden. We'll catch you next time.